hip hop, hip hop, hip hop, hip bars is back. Hip hop, SamAnt O'God. What's up with you? I done watched them niggas do when
always done an incredible job of is celebrating your beauty while not over exploiting yourself. And I mean, we've seen it throughout the 90s in hip hop and 2000s, but even more prevalent now with social media, the over exploitation of women. We see it, young girls doing it now. We just see a lot of it going on, all while there being a respect gap and a respect gap conversation between the black man and the black woman. Can you speak on what you feel about let's talk about hip hop, females and hip hop in particular, and then how it may affect the respect conversation or respect gap between black men and black women?
Well, to each his own first. You know, I don't look at anything as bad or good. It's just to each his own. Culturally, we do celebrate the black woman's body, where in fashion, it's not even allowed because it's too curvaceous. And so that's a positive way I look at things. You know, we're not stick figures usually, and I'm glad that the more realistic body is being embraced. It might be a little different now, but to each his own. And, you know, if you purchase body parts, that's fine too. Whatever makes your life a more beautiful life is on you. And so how it affects conversations between men and women, black men and women, I mean, there is in entertainment in general, and it always has been, sexual exploitation or the sexualization of women and men. But we're also living in a time where more information is shared, and there's always this next competition of overdoing the last situation. So I would say the shock value, there are a lot of people competing with what was last, you know, and it increases every generation. So the desensitization of physical, of sexual nature, of bodies in general, it's the norm now. It is the norm. And so there may be a respect situation, or there may be just quick conversation or quick activity. I don't really know. So to each his own in that right. And it's up to you to define what it is that makes you feel empowered, what it makes you feel, or what makes you feel disrespected, and what your intentions are in whatever action you do partake in, how you dress. There's a lot of shaming regarding women showing a shoulder or ankle in another culture, or head. So it's different everywhere, and it really depends on the culture that you come up in. There's strip club culture that also dictates music and hit records these days, because that's a real culture. You know what I'm saying? So that's a driving force between or for a lot of music that comes out of the strip club capital, ATL. You know, if you don't understand it, then it's hard for people to get what is empowering or define what's disrespectful, because they don't live that life. But the ones that do is just every day. So it really depends on each person, their outlook, their perspective, what they're trying to get out of another individual. But I just think a lot of information and a lot of things that kids are tuned into that should probably not be the norm is oversaturated. It's more about the young culture in protecting them and allowing them to define, or at least lead them to, you know, understand what is adults and what is for children and what should not be done prior to, you know. So that's personal conversation with mentors and parents at the end of the day, because kids do have access to all of the platforms showcasing a lot of adult things.
You're very well put. Jprince, we actually had him on last week. I know in 2009 you hooked up with Jprince to do Beauty in the Streets, I think it was called.
Mm-hmm.
Put me up on something, because I didn't know that Jprince was the first person to own his masters. I think you said, or rap star to own his masters. Can you take us back to that experience working with Jprince and spending time in the Fifth Ward of Houston?
Yes. So I started working with a guy by the name of Dollar Bill from Mississippi, and he introduced me to Jprince when I was not quite sure if I could even get out of my label deal with Motown, and he said, well, Jprince is the guy to talk to if you have problems. So let's go take a meeting. And we sat down and, you know, we talked about business and the importance of owning masters, ownership, and, you know, music and vibe, where I was from, where he was from, and how to do business together from this point out if I wanted to proceed. And we started on Beauty in the Streets, Volume 1, while I was simultaneously recording one of the first Japan albums as well. And so a lot of the producers on Beauty in the Streets are also on the Japan album too, you know. So it was great working with Jay and spending time in the Fifth Ward. I went on to actually filming the TV series Fifth Ward because I felt so connected to that area, because I spent a lot of time there, and it feels like family every time I do go down there. But definitely a mentor, definitely somebody that, you know, has artist backs in this business when something is going wrong. You know, he's a very righteous man and speaks up for what he believes in and doesn't allow anybody to push him over. And my father is the same way. So yeah. Jprince and I had a conversation about this one day, and he said he wouldn't let his mother cry anymore, and he was determined, and I have the same fire in me. And then, you know, it extends to our community as well. There's just so much strife that needs to change, and it's designed that way. So that keeps me going, but I come from that. So it keeps me humble enough to know what I'm supposed to be doing with the gift that can go at any moment in the small borrowed time that I do have here on earth, because it's where I come from. And so much respect to Jprince.
Shout out to Jprince. Can you talk about that Fifth Ward series a little bit? I was reading up on that on the Urban Movie channel, if I'm not mistaken. Sounded incredible. I've never got to see it, unfortunately, but I'm going to check it out after reading the what I've been reading. It sounds great. Can you talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind?
So the director, Greg Carter of Nexus Films, he is actually from the Fifth Ward. He grew up there, and he has a movie that was out for years, and he turned this movie of his, independent movie, into a television series. And it was basically just a call to my agent a couple of years ago, and I was not sure that I could do it with being in the middle of touring and everything. And it just so happens that I had the freedom to craft a schedule to be able to do it. But I was still praying on it because it was an independent situation, and right. I knew that the agents and the managers would be like, no, don't take it. It's not enough money. But I prayed for a sign. And literally when I was in Chicago, there was a sign when I was doing this Chosen Few DJs picnic. I was hosting it. Right above me on stage was a sign, and it said Fifth Ward. And the next day I called my agent and I said, I'm doing it. And so nothing but blessings have come out of that. I've written a couple of songs and produced a couple of songs on that project. Sang a gospel song that I wrote. It's out on season 2 now, and the show is on UMC, Urban Movie Channel. And hopefully a season 3 will be in the works once COVID-19 settles down, because it's already written.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I want to go back and talk about one of my favorite songs ever, man, The Best of Me. You did it with Jadakiss and JayZ, those songs. Still to this day, that song gives me chills. But how did that come about? I know you didn't actually go in the studio with JayZ. You guys performed the song together, but how did that come about? You guys hooking up that song together?
So the first version was with Jadakiss, and Swiss Beats produced that record. And Swiss was telling us, this is the first R&B record we produced. It was originally for DMX, that beat, for the original Best of Me featuring Jada. And then for the Backstage album, DJ Clue, Track Masters, and I got together on the production, and Makeda, songwriter, on the top line for the remix. And then JayZ did a feature through Steve Stout. Steve was mentioning in the building that was his cousin, that, you know, so he could hook it up. And it happened. And then the next thing you know, we're shooting the video in Malibu. And it was probably the shortest video shoot I've ever done. It was only like 3 or 4 hours, you know, hair and makeup, green screen, and that's it.
So how was the experience though? I know, you know, real brief with it, but you're working with JayZ, obviously, that back then nobody knew that he would be a billionaire, you know, at that time. So how was that whole experience, you know, collabing with JayZ on that particular song? And did that song kind of take you to places where you never thought you would go? I
think we've only performed the song one time at Madison Square Garden. I can't remember of any other instances working together outside of the video shoot, but it's a blessing to see all of our brothers, from just the hard knocks of being in the hood, making something of themselves, and then flipping it to just give so many other opportunities to people. So that's a beautiful thing about hip hop and what I do see happening in the culture, and all praises due. What else? The Backstage album. Clue and I got together on the Mood Ring album, which was the third album to follow. And he did a song featuring Fabulous on a remix called Hurry Up. So we kept in touch and continued to work. But yeah, Lil X, Hype's protege, ended up shooting Girls Them Sugar with Beanie Man. And Back to Best of Me remix. I mean, people have their favorites.
Yeah.
But I was